Hi, come on in. Welcome. I'm India Solomon. I'm an artist, designer, and all-around creative. And let me show you around my space. We can start over here in my room, which is my favorite place, definitely my Zen space. So in addition to painting, which is really where my practice started, I've started to focus on home goods. I'm someone that's really impacted by my space and can kind of see the therapeutic impact that my art has. So I've started to manufacture home goods, and one of the things I'm focused on this year is thinking about sustainable manufacturing. So I have pillows here, I've got a comforter that I've designed, and a few other things. But I think a lot, when we're talking about sustainability, I think a lot about cultural sustainability and what that means. And for me, it's more of a holistic practice of relationships and, you know, where are you spending your money, where are you spending your time, who are you supporting with the gifts that you're putting out in the world. So one of the exciting things I was able to do this year with my practice was create a connection to a design studio in India that's run by another woman of color. She lives with autism and also trains other young people with autism to design and manufacture out of her studio, right? So that's not a traditional kind of discussion around sustainability in terms of materials, but for me, that's a very sustainable and fulfilling relationship that I can now kind of pour my work into and support her practice as she's supporting mine. So that's a really cool thing that I'm working on this year. We can start to head back to my studio, and I'll talk a little bit about how I got into art. You can kind of see from my home that it's a microcosm of my practice. And so my creativity really started with working on DIY and cute home projects with my mom. We were always changing our space, always shifting things around so that we could feel better. My grandmother was also very creative. She made all of her clothes. So I spent a lot of time sitting at the kitchen table with grandma, making clothes and making stuff out of fabric scraps. So when I say all around creative, that's really what I mean. It's been rooted in my life in such an organic way. And I'm just really blessed to be able to express that now. So we're coming back into my studio where most of the magic happens. We're in my home, and I hadn't initially planned for this to be a studio, but my practice has expanded so much that this is what it is now. So when we're thinking about sustainability, another thing I've started to work on with my practice, as you can see here, is using like flowers and materials from the earth and dried leaves and things that you just find outside, right? Like you don't have to buy this stuff. I kind of looked in my backyard and was like, oh, it's a lot of leaves. I don't feel like raking. Maybe I should make some art out of it. And that started to be a really signature piece of my work. So this year, I'd really like to create a whole collection of pieces like this that are even more kind of dense with flowers and things like that. Think about when you're gifted flowers, instead of throwing them away, I've started to dry them and then kind of save them and use them for pieces. But that's really what you'll see from me this year, is moving beyond the painting, beyond just, you know, painting on a canvas, really thinking critically about how I'm reusing materials and being resourceful. That's one of the beautiful things about artists. We use what we have, and, you know, especially coming from places like Detroit, we make things happen with what we have. And that is really, I want that to be reflected in my work as well, that resourcefulness that rooted me when I was young and has now sustained me as a creative in my life. So look out for that. Check out my website, indiasolomon.com. I'm always throwing stuff out there. I'm very spontaneous with my work at the moment. I'm in an experimental phase, so things pop up. If you follow my Instagram, Indie Solomon, I'm always telling you about shows coming up, little pop-ups. I would really love to start thinking about a permanent space for my work, so that's something you can also look out for this year. Thank you.